Hi, everyone. My name is Arlene Estepillo, and I'm part of the Davidson Institute team, and I'm your host for today. We're excited to be here with you this afternoon. And before we dive into this Fellows Scholarship information session, I wanted to go over a few housekeeping points so you have an idea of what to expect in this session. So this session is intended to run for 60 minutes. The session will include a presentation and be followed by a Q&A. We will do our best to address as many questions as we can in the time allotted. We would like to point out that this is in a Zoom webinar setting and is designed so staff can share their video, audio, and screen, but attendees are in view-only mode. Please note the chat feature of Zoom has been disabled. We do ask that you please direct all of your questions to the Q&A feature of Zoom. Please stay through to the end of the session. You will then be directed to our post-event survey to help us gather feedback on your experience. And of course, a recording of this live webinar will be available on the Davidson Gifted website within a week. And now diving right into this session, I am pleased to introduce you to Tacey Mosner, the Davidson Fellows Scholarship Program Director. I'll hand over the presentation to you now, Tacey.
Hi, everybody. Can you see me? Okay. All right. So yes, thank you for coming. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. Hopefully everybody can now see my screen. All right. Okay, yeah, thank you. I am Tacey and I run the Fellows Program. This first slide of my presentation pretty much has kind of one of the most important things that you're gonna need, which is the deadline of February 12th, 2025. So that is the deadline. Keep that in mind, put it on your calendar. Just make sure that you are aware of that very important deadline. Okay, now diving in. What is the Davidson Fellows Scholarship? Well, the Fellows Scholarship is a standard college scholarship that can be used toward tuition and related expenses and at any accredited college or university. So you can use it for books, any sort of professor mandated supplies like a laptop or maybe a scientific calculator. You can also use it for room and board, so any of those types of expenses. The scholarship amounts are $10,000, $25,000, and $50,000. And then students have 10 years to use their scholarship money. This is not a recurring or renewable scholarship, but you do have 10 years to use it. So if you have other scholarships, if you've earned other scholarships that you need to use first, you can do that. The money would be waiting for you. If you are younger in high school and you win this scholarship, the money would be waiting for you when you graduate from high school. Students even use it for grad school, so it's designed to be flexible. And ultimately, it's up to you and your family how you disperse the scholarship. I get this question a lot. Does the scholarship have to go directly to the school? That again is up to your family. Sometimes students, they and the family pay the school, and then they can use the scholarship to be reimbursed, or the scholarship can go directly to the school. So whatever is best for your family. And then lastly, there's no fee to apply for this scholarship. Okay, who is eligible? We try to keep this flexible as well. So students who are 18 and younger are eligible as of the application deadline of February 12th, 2025. There's no minimum age for eligibility. So you don't have to be a senior to apply. You don't even have to be in high school. So there's no minimum age. As long as you're 18 or younger as of the deadline, you are eligible. Additionally, you need to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident residing in the U.S. Now, if you are a U.S. citizen or permanent resident and you're outside of the U.S., living abroad, excuse me, and you're living abroad due to military deployment or government service, anything like that, you are still eligible. Now, if you are a student who is living abroad for other reasons, typically you are not eligible. But if you have questions about that kind of eligibility, you are welcome to contact me. Okay, now we're going to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the application itself. The application categories, as you can see there, we have the STEM categories: science, technology, engineering, and math, humanities, lit, music, philosophy, and then we have outside the box. And outside the box, I get a lot of questions. What kind of projects go in outside the box? And it's for projects that don't really fit in the other categories. A few years ago, we had a student who submitted a game that the players learned chemistry. It was a great game, and so you could learn chemistry as you played the game. So that was an outside the box project. Last year, we had a student who submitted an architecture portfolio. This year, a student won who documented the medicinal plants that the Maasai tribe uses. So that is outside the box. Projects, history projects, economics, political science, anything along those lines, that all can fit in outside the box. And here's another thing: if you aren't sure if your project is eligible or what category, just contact me and we can figure it out together. And then within these broader categories, there are subcategories. So in science, there's also chemistry and physics and environmental science, and in engineering, bioengineering, chemical engineering. So there, you're not pigeonholed at all. We try to keep the categories very, very broad so that we can appeal to the biggest group of students. Now, what is not eligible in outside the box or any other category is community service, or projects in the arts, like art, visual arts, dance, photography, theater, singing. These projects, they are not eligible in outside the box or any of the other Davidson Fellows categories. Additionally, we are not really interested in getting homework assignments as projects. That really isn't reaching the level that we are looking for. We also do not want to get literature reviews. So if you have done a literature review of a bunch of papers on crows, and you're synthesizing all of the information on crows, but you're not contributing new information, that is not quite what we're looking for either. We're looking for original research and work. The category requirements. All right, for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, they're the same. You will need to submit a formal research paper, a visual model, and code, and supplemental information if you want. That is optional. For the formal research paper, that is just what it sounds like. For the visual model, that can be photos, charts, graphs, PowerPoint, whatever is the best visual representation of your work. And if you have questions about what that could be, that is a good question for your nominators. They know your project, so they can help you kind of figure out the best way to visually represent your work. And then for the code, we want you to, if you use code in your project, we want you to indicate the code that you acquired versus the code that you wrote. The judges want to see the code, both of them, but they want to see what your contribution to the code was. And then the supplemental information, that can be future work for your project, anything that you feel that you're going to continue on with your work, a resume. A lot of students like to submit their resumes, or anything else that you would like the judging panel to know. That's great to submit as supplemental information. And then for humanities, the literature, philosophy, and music, we're looking for portfolios demonstrating breadth and depth of understanding. And something to note with all the categories, I use project and portfolio sort of interchangeably. They're the same. It's kind of easier to talk about a project in science and a portfolio in the humanities. So, but they're the same thing. They're a big collection of work. So in the humanities, in literature, you're going to have a variety of genres represented in your portfolio. Same for philosophy and same for music. You want to demonstrate your breadth and depth. And then on the how to apply page, we have links to the category requirements, and there are all kinds of details in there. So I'm kind of going over the broad strokes, but you can get down into the weeds on the category requirement PDF checklist. So that has more information. And then lastly, outside the box, um, we don't really know what people are going to dream up. So we don't want to constrain people by saying it has to be a portfolio or formal research paper. You can choose whatever is the best representation of your project. So that is the category requirements part one. But something to note, we don't want test scores. A lot of students want to submit their test scores. We don't need them. They're not part of the evaluation. The judges, that's not part of what they're looking at. Okay, so the category requirements part two. Everyone has to submit these attachments. And so it's the process essay, significance essay, and YouTube video. The process essay is really important for us as far as knowing the process that you went through. But we want to kind of know your A to Z, your start to finish, so that we can see the entire lifespan of the project. We want to know, like, how did you come up with this idea? Did you encounter any problems? Did you have any unexpected successes? What surprised you? So we want to know all about your project. We want to know how you worked with your nominators, how you found your nominators. All of that is really important to the judging panel. And then the significance essay, we want you to kind of reflect on why you think the project or portfolio is significant. Why is it special? Why is it special to you? Why should it be special to everyone else? This is kind of your chance to really kind of toot your horn. You've worked really hard on this, so be a cheerleader of sorts. Talk about why your project is great. And then the YouTube video, attachment 3. This is the conclusion of your project. This is putting kind of a face to the project or portfolio. You can be as creative as you wish. You can use the video to highlight certain things that you feel are really important, that you want you want to really reiterate to the judges that this is a really important piece. And so this is your chance to kind of wrap everything up and conclude your whole application package. And then with all of these attachments, as well as the category requirements themselves, this is all detailed in the category requirement checklist PDFs that are on the How to Apply page. It's really important to look those over. For these attachments, we have prompts that you can use to build your essays. And yes, these are essays. A lot of students will ask me, well, can I just answer everything in a bullet point list? No, these are essays. So write them as essays. The judges are expecting essays. The judges are expecting essays that are well-structured and that you took care with them, just like you took care with your portfolio or formal research paper. And then A note about intellectual property. This is a question that I get more and more over the years as more code comes into play. But everything that you submit to the Davidson Fellows program, that intellectual material remains that of the applicant. The Davidson Fellows program has no rights to that material except to have it judged. No one else sees that material except the Davidson Fellows staff and the judges. The judges sign contracts saying that the intellectual material they are going to review remains that of the applicant. So it's the intellectual material is all yours and will always be that way. Additionally, a lot of students will look at the Davidson Fellows website and they'll think that we are publishing the papers, that we are kind of giving out details that maybe are important or maybe patent pending or anything like that. We do not. Everything that's on the website is we got from the Davidson Fellows themselves. They wrote it, but we don't publish anything that is part of the application package. Students who have patent pending projects or materials in their projects, that no one will see that except for staff and judges. Another thing with students who maybe have a patent pending material in their application, you have to submit all the requirements just the same as everybody else. Otherwise, there's nothing for the judges to review. So just because it's patent pending doesn't mean that you get a pass on the requirements. The judges have to review something. So, but your intellectual material is protected. All right, the project criteria, you can look down these bullet points. In a nutshell, we're just looking for projects that have the potential to benefit society, that are socially relevant, that are high level. We're just looking for students who are kind of have gone maybe a little bit above and beyond. So that's what we're looking for. Along these project criteria lines, I get a lot of questions about, can I submit my project, but it's just in the theoretical phase right now? And the short answer is no. The long answer is because there's nothing for the judges to review. If your project is still in the theoretical phase, there's no data, there are no results, there's no proof of concept, there's no way for the judges to know if the project has the potential to benefit society. So just keep working on it. Keep working on it and apply next year. But keep going. So, and then I get the same question, well, what if I'm halfway through? Well, do you have any data or results or proof of concept? Can the judges assess social relevance? If they can, great, apply. If they can't, if your project isn't quite there yet, just keep working on it and apply next year. So so that is that's the theoretical projects are a no-go until they're a little bit more fleshed out. And then I saw when students and parents were registering for this info session that I got some questions about if a student participated in the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair, as well as STS, the Science Talent Search. If you did, yes, absolutely apply. You're working at the level that we want. Your projects are likely eligible. And so, yes, that is the level of work that we're looking for. And then if you have any questions about whether your project is eligible, please just let me know and we can figure it out. Okay, judging. Of course, this is a big one. So, what are the judges looking for? besides the criteria of having a high-level project, you want to make sure your application's complete. That all of your uploads are in the correct spot. So, when you get into the application, you're going to see that there are lots of uploads, there are lots of requirements. This is a rigorous application. So take your time. Make sure that you are uploading your literature portfolio to the portfolio upload spot, and that you're not uploading your process essay to the portfolio spot. So make sure, just slow down and make sure you are putting everything where it needs to be. And then with the attachment 3 video, make sure the link is viable. It's a lot of the times the links can break. I don't really know why, but sometimes they break. But one of the biggest reasons why some judges can't view the links is because the student made the link private. Do not make your video private. Make it unlisted. When it's unlisted, it is still protected from general viewing by the general public. Only people who have that link can view the video. But if it's private, then no one, we can't see it. So staff can't see it, the judging panel can't see it. So make sure that your video is unlisted. If it's private, sometimes the judges will contact me and say, hey, this video is private. Can you see if you can get another link? And then I'll reach out to the applicant and try to get a new link. But sometimes they don't. They're busy. So if a student didn't follow the directions, their link is private and unviewable to the judges, that is now an incomplete application, and judging is finished on it and the student is done and disqualified. So it's very important. Who are these judges? Who are these mysterious judges? They are professors, usually professors, PhDs in the concerned field. So if you are submitting a physics project, you will be reviewed by the physics panel, or chemistry, the chemistry panel, literature, the lit panel. So everybody knows what it has expertise in the subject that you are doing your research in. And then we have the criteria, 50 points for quality and scope, 30 points for significance, and 20 points for depth of knowledge. So that's the rubric that the judges use, and they it's out of 100. So the goal, of course, is to get close to 100 points. And then, one thing I almost forgot is that the evaluation is based solely on the project, or the whole application package. So your project, portfolio, your essays, your video, all of the things that you upload. If you have won other competitions, that's great, but that is not part of the evaluation for the fellows program. So this is all just based on the criteria is based on the strengths of the project. Okay, so this is a big one. I get lots of questions about nominators, and so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on it. And then if you have other questions about nominators, you can put them in the Q&A and I'll try to get to them. But who should serve as a nominator? So first and foremost, 2 nominators are required. Not 1, not 3, 2, period, required. It doesn't matter if you worked with 1 person or if you worked with 4 people on your project. We just need 2 nominators. Nominators should be people who are very familiar with your project, who know how you went about your project, and can answer the questions on the nominating form. We have posted a sample of the nominating form on the How to Apply page of the Fellows website. It's a sample. It has a sample watermark across it, so please do not download it and have your nominators fill it out and email it to me. That doesn't work. I cannot accept any emailed materials, but that it does give you an idea of the questions that we're going to ask. It gives you an exact idea of the questions we're going to ask. All those questions are the same questions your nominators are going to have to answer through the application system. So use that as a guide to the people who can best answer those questions in support of your project. And, so your nominators can be high school teachers, professors, principal investigators, people who know your project. And then your nominators should be people you trust will follow through and complete the form by the deadline. If you are missing nominating forms as of the deadline, you will be disqualified, period. That's just the way it is. So you want to make sure that you don't ask someone who maybe has a fancy title because you think that's going to sound good to the judging panel to be a nominator when really they are too busy to follow through and complete it. You want people who you trust will follow through and not flake on you. It's really important. And then you can monitor them through the application system. So you, in part 2 of the application, you will input their names and emails, and then you'll send them the form. And then you can see that the email was sent, letting them know that the nominating form is available for them. You can see if they've opened that email, you can see if they have started the form, and then you can see if they've submitted it. So you can monitor them, and you can resend the forms if it's getting close to the deadline and they haven't started the form, so that the email pops back up at the top of their inbox. You can replace nominators, but you can only replace your nominators if the nominator has not begun, they haven't started the form. So if they've started the form, then that's your nominator. You're stuck with them. And so you just have to make sure they get it in by the deadline. If they have not started the form and you feel like you want to replace them, then there's a little line in the application telling you how you can replace that nominator. So it's really easy. And family members may not serve as nominators. They can't be impartial. It's not useful to the judges or to the fellows staff to have family members serve as nominators. But family members kind of leads me to a couple of important points. If you are homeschooled, you are eligible, certainly. Or if you worked on your project alone, you are eligible. But what I'm going to say now will pertain to you probably more. You still need nominators. You still need the 2 nominators. They cannot be family members. And so I usually suggest to students to go to maybe a local high school or college, or maybe Google someone who is working in the same field as your project. See if you can develop a relationship so they can serve as a nominator or become a mentor. But you can document all of that process that you went through finding these nominators in your process essay. The judges are used to seeing students who have worked alone or are homeschooled, and or maybe their mom is the PI in the lab. And so the judging panel is used to seeing students who have kind of gone through a different route to find their nominators, which is totally fine, but it really helps to document that process in your process essay so that we and the judging panel know that maybe this is sort of a lighter nominating form because, well, this student worked all by themselves and they just needed to fulfill this requirement. So this nominating form doesn't have a ton of detail, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, so the application process. The application process is 2 parts, 2-part process. Now, number 1 on this slide is create your account. We use the submittable application platform. Some people may already have an account if you've applied for the other things that submittable hosts. So if you already have an account, fine, you can just log in, or if you need to create an account. Okay, So part one of the application is the initial portion. So we are going to collect your demographic information, your name, your birthday, your hometown, and all of that. But what's really important in the initial portion is your category and your subcategory, if you have one, your project title, and your project description. Your project description is just a brief 200 to 300 word description of your project. So we want to be able to, we use that to assess to make sure that your project is eligible. Typically they're eligible, and then we approve your application through to part two. But if we have questions about your project, then this is the point that this is going to be the first time that Davidson staff is going to see your application. So if we have questions about it, we will contact you and then clear up any concerns we had, and then you'll probably be approved to part two. All right, part two. This is the meat. This is everything that you have been working on. Part two, you will submit all your category requirements, the essays, the videos, plural, everything. So that will be in part two. Also in part two, we require one parent or both, but one is required to sign off that they acknowledge that you are applying for this scholarship. It's just them signing a form saying, I know that John Doe is applying for this scholarship, and that's all we need. And part two is also where you're going to submit or input your nominator information, so their name and email. And then you will email both your parents and your nominators their respective forms to fill out. And then they will get emails saying that they have forms to fill out. And then you can monitor their progress with all of that. And so since this is a two-part process, it's in your best interest to make sure that you fill out part one quick, get that part done. Your application, your project does not need to be complete, and you can go back, and if you need to edit part one, the project description, you can do that. But you want to get access to part two so that you can send your nominators their forms so that they have as much time as possible. So with this two-part process, you really want to get part one just done. And if you need to make edits at a later point, that's fine. You just contact me through the application system and I'll open it up for edits, and then you can make those edits, and then you can be back in part two to continue on with your work. So that is the two-part application process. Timing and what to expect. So with that two-part process, so you're going to get an email saying your application is being held for review, and it'll take 1 to 2 business days. We try to do it way faster than that so that you can get on with the application. So, but sometimes it does take us a little bit. So again, get that part one done so that we can approve it and you can start moving on. After the deadline, judging runs through the end of June. And the notification of all applicants, whether you win or lose, is late June, early July. And then last year, well, 2024, we had about 750 applicants, and there are 20 winners. We budget for 20 winners every year, and we had 19 honorable mentions this year. And then anyone who is not named a Davidson Fellow is welcome to reapply, provided you are still age eligible. So if you are an honorable mention or you didn't win any sort of designation, you are welcome to reapply, provided you're 18 or younger. Okay, teams. Teams are a fairly new development here. We've had them a few years. So teams can be no more than two people only. Both team members must meet eligibility requirements. So both team members must be 18 or younger as of the deadline and be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident residing in the U.S. Once a team, always a team. So what that means is if you are two people who have worked on a project, but one of you is not eligible, say that person is 19, then the project is not eligible. The remaining person cannot apply with that project as an individual because that's academic dishonesty and you'll be disqualified. So if a project has been worked on by a team, it remains a team's project. So once a team, always a team. The scholarship money is split evenly between the two team members. No matter how the work was actually, if the work was split up unevenly, the money will be split evenly. So it's split evenly, period. As with individual projects or submissions, two nominators are required. So two nominators per project. So individuals who apply need two nominators, and two-person teams need two nominators. So it's two nominators per project, not per person. And there's no advantage to applying as an individual over a team or vice versa. The judges, that's not part of their evaluation. Okay, how can you be successful? What makes a successful applicant? Please read. Please just read everything. We take a lot of time to try to make everything as smooth as possible for students. Applying for scholarships is time consuming and tedious. So just read the application, read your category requirements, read the how to apply page and the frequently asked question pages. All of those, it's all has tons of information that is very relevant to you, can save you time and effort if you read through everything. You could read through some of the requirements and think, I don't think that this is for me. You could read through the FAQs and think, I'm not eligible. So do yourself a favor and read through everything. There's a lot to read, yes, but this is a big scholarship, so it is worth your time to read through everything. Again, with the nominators, choose reliable nominators. Don't be disqualified because an adult did not follow through. Choose people who you are comfortable emailing and asking all the time, hey, how about my nominating form? Make sure they submit their forms by the deadline. Proofread your submission and double check your files. Don't submit some sloppy paper that has grammatical errors or spelling errors. Do not submit anything like that. The judges like nice, tidy applications that have been proofread and have no spelling errors or grammar errors. That's very important. This is, again, a big scholarship, so your work needs to reflect that. And then again, make sure that you have put all of your uploads in the proper spots. Check your email. I will only communicate with you via email. You will get emails from the application system, from Submittable, and you'll get emails from me. You don't want to miss any of those emails. If they're emails from the application system, it's telling you that maybe that I have questions about your application or that you have been approved to part 2. Or maybe I'm emailing you and I have questions myself, or maybe I'm forwarding on some questions from the judging panel. Make sure that you're checking your email. We have definitely disqualified students who have not responded to important questions that the judging panel had or that I had. And if they don't respond, we have to move on. It doesn't seem like a quick turnaround, but we have a lot of applications to review. So make sure you check your email. Don't self-plagiarize. So that means if you have been published somewhere or you are reusing your work, make sure that you note that. We want to know if you're reusing your work. It's fine to do that, but to reuse your work, but if you don't acknowledge it, then that is considered self-plagiarizing. So, and that can be grounds for disqualification. You don't want to do that. We'll have a field in the application that will ask if you've been published. If you've been published or if you're in preprint, we want to know where you've been published, when, and we want a link. If it's a preprint link, if you've been published, we want a link to those, to where you have been using your work. And then don't leave everything to the last minute, of course. as I've said, there's a lot of stuff that you need to do. Look at your calendar, look at February 12th and work backward and think, okay, this is a reasonable amount of time that I'm going to need to do all this work. So don't wait until the last minute. But do contact me with questions. There's a lot. There's a lot. When you're applying for scholarships, you should, first of all, be really proud you're applying for scholarships. It's a big deal. It's a lot of work on top of your schoolwork. So you should be really proud of trying to better yourself. So if you have questions, contact scholarship admin. That is what our job is, to help you be a successful applicant. So please contact me if you have questions or if you're confused or whatever it is. I am available for any questions you have. So here's my contact information. I have a couple email addresses and then my phone number. So you can take a picture or jot it down. But thank you. Thank you so much for coming to this info session. Again, contact me with questions. And importantly, the deadline is the application will open on November 1st. And the deadline is February 12th, 2025, 11:59 Pacific time. So I'm going to go back to the my contact information, and then I think we're going to open it up for questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Tacey, for the presentation. We now have time to answer some questions from our audience. If the audience has any questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A section. We'll do what we can to answer as many questions as we can in the time allotted. All right, Tacey, we do have some questions already in the Q&A. First question is, if our submission has code or any other inner workings, do we need to send them?
Yes. If you are using code, we want to see it. We want to see the code that you wrote versus the code that you acquired. So make sure that we can see all of that.
Next question is, I am in my senior year. At this time, I'm 17. However, I will be 18 in early January. Will I be able to participate in this?
Yes. Yes. So you'll be 18. So 18 and younger. So yes, you are eligible to apply. Yeah.
And then next question is, are there any full grant or financial aid for international students?
I'm afraid not. We do not offer a scholarship for international students. But if you just Google international scholarships, you will get a lot of results that will match you. You can also use FastWeb, FASTWEB.com, and you'll fill out a form, and then they will match scholarships to your profile. So if you're an international student, you can do that too. There are a lot of international scholarships. I don't know a lot about them, but because we don't offer them.
Next question is, are teachers allowed to be mentors?
Yes, yes, teachers can be mentors, guidance counselors, professors, anyone who knows about your project, or your portfolio, knows how you went about it. So absolutely, teachers can be mentors.
Right. Next question is, I am a ninth grader. How do I build my high school profile for Davidson Fellows Scholarship?
Well, we don't really look at your high school profile. Like, we don't really care if you're, you know, in the chess club or a football player or anything like that. The evaluation of the Davids in the for the Davidson Fellows program is based solely on a project or a portfolio. So, a resume is I don't even know. The judges may not even review a resume. Some of them do, some of them don't. But it's not part of the evaluation. So building a profile in high school to apply for this particular scholarship is not applicable, but maybe it is for other scholarships. So you just have to read what the requirements are for other scholarships. So I think that it is important maybe for other scholarships, but for this one, not so much.
Next question, is the scholarship paid to the school or to the student?
It can be either. The disbursement is up to you and your family, whatever works best. Some families will pay the tuition directly to the school, and then they will submit their receipts to the fellows program, and then they're reimbursed. Or if they want the payment to go directly to the school, we do that too. Either way is fine.
Next question is, if you apply junior year and don't get the scholarship, can you reapply for the following year?
Yes, absolutely. As long as you're age eligible, we don't really care what grade you're in, but as long as you're 18 or younger as of the deadline, you are eligible to reapply if you didn't win. Yes.
If a high school student takes college credit classes, can this scholarship be used for that?
Yeah, yeah. So you're as long as it's toward a degree seeking program. If you're in high school and you are um, maybe taking kind of passion project type of classes. Maybe you're learning French, but when you go to college, you're going to get your degree in engineering. That probably won't be, you wouldn't be able to use the scholarship for that, but it's because so it has to be degree seeking. So if you're in high school and your classes are going toward your uh, future degree, yes, you can use the scholarship for that.
And next question is, 10 years from high school graduation date or from the date of winning the scholarship?
10 years from winning the scholarship. Yeah. So the students who won this year, their scholarship expires in 2034, regardless of what grade they are in school.
Next question is, can scholarships be used for universities outside the US, like in the EU or UK?
Yes, yes, as long as they're accredited. So, we have had fellows who have used their scholarships in Europe, but the schools have to be accredited. So we kind of, look at those a little bit more carefully, but if they're accredited, typically yes.
Next question is, if we have any questions after this session, can we email you? What is your typical response time?
I try to be really fast. I am taking the next couple of days off though. So, but next week, I'm around, and the application will be opening, on Friday, November 1st. So I am working on updating everything for the 2025 cycle, but, I usually try to respond within 24 hours. Yeah.
Next question is, does the inner workings of the project need to be public to everyone after submission?
Well, no, like I said, we are not going to publish or disclose any of the intellectual material of the project. So the inner workings, like code or your process, your methods, your data, all of that, none of that is published. That is all your intellectual property, and it remains that way. We don't everything that we have on the Davidson Fellows website, as far as the biographical material and project descriptions that we have, the students themselves write those. The winners write those. We don't use anything from their actual papers or the inner workings.
Next question is, what are the judges looking for in the literature section? Is there anything that will make a portfolio pop?
Um, well, be a good writer. It's up to the judge. Literature is hard because it can be very subjective, but it kind of does boil down, just like with all the other categories, is you want to make sure that your project is, you are putting your best foot forward, that you don't have any spelling or grammatical errors, and have someone else read read your work, no matter what the category is, to make sure that it all kind of flows together and it makes sense. A lot of times you've been working on these projects and portfolios for a long time. Um, Even this presentation, like I read it again, like I am missing a bunch of stuff that is obvious to me and makes sense in my mind, but it might not be to a first time reader. So think of it that way. Have someone fresh and new read your work to make sure that it makes sense, that it is error free.
Next question is, oh, 1 second. Next question is, I am on an H4 visa with green card filed in USA. I have been living in the USA for more than 10 years. The wait time is almost 10 years for a country to get the green cards as it goes really slow. Am I eligible to apply?
I will you just email me, please, this person? Um, I Right now, no. Right now we need the permanent resident card. But it is something that our board is aware of, that the wait time for someone who has been approved for a permanent resident card just doesn't have it in hand. So email me the specifics and I can go to the board to see if if you would be eligible.
Next question is, can a student submit in multiple categories?
No, one category, one project only. So if you are a double threat and you are a musician and a scientist, pick your best foot forward. But just one application.
Next question is, would the following project be music or out of the box? The project is writing a full-length musical, music and lyrics plus narration as the book.
Um, it would be it'd be music. The judges do not assess lyrics, so you would just submit your compositions. Yeah, yeah, and then if you have, you would also need sound recordings of those compositions. So you would apply music, just the scores and sound files.
Awesome. And then next question, is art a category I can submit in?
No. No art, no theater, no singing, no community service, projects that involve human subjects, projects that involve live vertebrates or live invertebrates, none of those are eligible. No art, no blogs, no photography, nothing like that.
Next question is, for the initial submission to obtain approval for a full submission, what level of information should be provided?
You will provide, say you have a chemistry project, so you are going to fill out your name, your address, your birth date, so all your demographic information, and then you're gonna scroll down to you'll pick your category, which would be science, and then your subcategory, which would be chemistry, and then you're gonna have your project title and then your project description. So your project description is going to be between 200 and 300 words. And so you're just going to describe your project. In the initial portion, part one of the application, do not submit all of the category requirements. That's what part two is for. We just want to make sure that what you are planning to submit is eligible. So if I get a project description that says that I painted a painting, not eligible, and I'll give you other resources. But if you did a chemistry project and you figured out something cool, then you'll be approved to part two. So we just want a brief project description.
Next question is, if you worked with someone else to make a project, where do you indicate it?
In this application, it doesn't really allow for teams. So teams, we have to, the team has to email me to let me know that it's a team project, and then there's a primary applicant and a secondary applicant. So the primary applicant is the one who will fill out the whole online application, and then the secondary applicant is going to send me, I'm going to get the same information, their same demographic information, email, birth date, all of that. But we have to do that outside of the system because this application system does not support teams. So when you click on to apply for the Davidson Fellows Scholarship there, and you scroll down, I have in big letters, if you're a team, to email me. So it's really smooth after that first little bit, but so that you will alert me at the initial portion of the application.
Next question is, for music, what is considered as a project? For example, is playing Chopin piece considered as a project?
Well, you need to demonstrate breadth and depth. You need a portfolio. So one piece is not enough. You need to have a Baroque piece, romantic, classical, and a contemporary piece, 3 of those 4 as a classical instrumentalist. And so you will submit an audition format where you demonstrate your breadth and depth and play 3 or 4 from those genres. And then you also need to have a public performance, which is part 2, in part 2 and the component 2 of the music application. So playing one Chopin piece is not enough. And so you can go to the music category requirement PDF on the How to Apply page, and you can see everything that you would need to submit to be a music applicant.
Next question is, can the research submission have other contributors like other students also applying?
Well, we allow for 2-person teams, but if you are working, this sounds kind of like a group project. Group projects are not eligible. So you can email me and give me specifics if you think I'm not um, going down the right path right now. But if there are more than 2 people contributing to the project, no, it's not eligible.
Next question is, if the paper is currently under review for publication, is it eligible for this competition?
Yes, it's eligible, but we want to know that it is in review. So where we will have a field in the application that asks if your paper is published or preprint or under review, we want to know about it. And we'll want a link to the paper. We'll want to know when and where it's going to be published. We'll want to know all of that information.
Awesome. And I did want to let you know, Tacey, we are running out of time, so we have time for
Okay.
about 2 more questions.
Okay.
Next question is, for the visual model in STEM, is it a single model or multiple?
Well, why don't you email me and tell me what you have in mind? Typically, a model, it can be a series of photos or a series of graphs or whatever. It would all kind of be considered as one model. You have one project, so one model that represents, it can be represent various stages of the project, but one model. But if I am not understanding your question correctly, just email me.
All right. And last questions. What are the length requirements for essays and videos?
The video, no more than 10 minutes for the attachment 3 video. And then if you're in music and submitting videos, those are longer, of course. But the attachment 3 video, no more than 10 minutes. And then the essays, well, however long it takes you. I mean, you don't need to write a novel, but um, you know, however long it takes you, especially the process essay, be detailed. The significance essay, you don't need to write 10 pages about your project, about how significant it is. So don't go overboard.
Awesome. So that was the last question. Thank you, Tacey, for sharing this information about
Thank
Fellows
you.
Information Session and addressing questions from our audience. Before we end this session, do you have any closing statements for your attendees?
Again, please just contact me with questions. All of these questions were really great, and I know there are others. So I am here, and that's my job to help you through with everything. And you should just try for scholarships. There's lots of money out there. So keep up the good work. And thanks for coming.
Awesome. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Please remember to do the survey after the session closes. If you would like to view the session again, the recording will be posted on the Davidson Gifted website. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.